The sky was a deep shade of blue on that fateful day when the world changed forever. Andrew, a young and ambitious journalist, was walking back to his office when he saw it. A massive spaceship hovering above the city. The ship was unlike anything Andrew had ever seen before. Its metallic surface reflected the sunlight, and its sheer size was awe-inspiring. As people scrambled to get a glimpse of the ship, Andrew quickly grabbed his phone to call his editor, Nathan. "You won't believe what's happening," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. Nathan's voice was calm and curious on the other end of the line. "What is it, Andrew?" "It's a spaceship," Andrew replied, his eyes fixed on the ship. "It's huge, and it's hovering above the city." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "I'm on my way," Nathan said finally. "Try to get a closer look." Andrew nodded, even though Nathan couldn't see him. He began to make his way through the crowded streets, trying to get a better view of the ship. As he walked, he noticed that people were reacting in different ways. Some were frightened, while others seemed curious. The ship slowly descended, and a group of beings emerged. They were tall, with long, slender bodies, and large, almond-shaped eyes. Andrew felt a mix of fear and curiosity as the beings began to move towards the city. One of the beings, a tall and calm-looking individual with a kind face, stepped forward. He introduced himself as Victor and began to speak in a language that sounded like a gentle melody. A device on Victor's wrist began to translate his words into English. "We come in peace," Victor said. "We mean no harm to humanity." Andrew was skeptical, but he was also intrigued. He had always wondered if humanity was alone in the universe. Now, it seemed, he had his answer. As the crowd began to murmur and react, Andrew pushed his way to the front. He wanted to get a closer look at Victor and the other beings. He also wanted to hear more about their intentions. Victor began to explain that they had come to help humanity. They had been watching the planet for some time, and they were concerned about the damage that humans were doing to their own world. Andrew was intrigued. He had always known that humanity was facing many challenges, but he had never thought that there might be an extraterrestrial solution. As he listened to Victor's words, Andrew began to feel a sense of wonder and curiosity. What did the future hold for humanity? And what did these beings have in store for them? The crowd was in a state of confusion as Victor and his team began to move towards the city. Andrew, still trying to process what was happening, found himself at the forefront of the crowd. Victor, sensing Andrew's curiosity, approached him. "We mean no harm," he said, his voice translated through the device on his wrist. "We have come to help your planet." Andrew was skeptical, but he was also intrigued. "What do you mean?" he asked. Victor explained that his people, the Antari, had been watching Earth for some time. They had seen the damage that humans had done to their planet, and they had decided to intervene. "We want to help you find a new way," Victor said. "A way that will allow you to live in harmony with your planet." As Victor spoke, Andrew noticed that the Antari were moving through the city, seemingly studying the human behavior. They were taking note of the pollution, the poverty, and the inequality. Andrew felt a sense of unease. Were these beings trying to fix everything? And what did they plan to do with humanity? Just then, a young woman approached Andrew. She introduced herself as Sophia, a member of the Antari team. "We come in peace," Sophia said, her voice gentle. "We want to help you, but we also want to learn from you." Andrew was taken aback by Sophia's kindness. He found himself wanting to trust her, to believe that these beings were genuinely trying to help. As the day went on, Andrew found himself spending more and more time with Sophia and Victor. He was learning about their technology, their culture, and their plans for humanity. But not everyone was as open-minded as Andrew. A group of people, led by a charismatic leader named Jacob, began to protest against the Antari. "We don't need their help," Jacob shouted. "We can fix our own problems." Andrew watched as the protest grew, sensing a conflict brewing. Would the Antari be able to overcome the skepticism and fear of humanity? Or would their efforts be rejected? Over the next few days, the Antari began to share their advanced technology with humanity. They provided solutions to the world's most pressing problems: clean energy, sustainable food production, and advanced medical care. Andrew watched in amazement as the Antari worked tirelessly to help humanity. They were like a team of highly skilled doctors, diagnosing the problems of the planet and prescribing solutions. Sophia, who had become a close friend to Andrew, explained that the Antari had been watching Earth for some time. They had seen the damage that humans had done to their planet, and they had decided to intervene. "We want to help you find a new way," Sophia said, her eyes filled with compassion. "A way that will allow you to live in harmony with your planet." As the world began to transform, Andrew saw the impact of the Antari's help. The air and water began to clean up, and the forests began to regrow. The humans, too, began to change. They were healthier, happier, and more peaceful, but not everyone was convinced. Jacob, the leader of the protest, continued to speak out against the Antari. "This is not what we want," Jacob said, his voice filled with passion. "We don't want to be saved by aliens. We want to save ourselves." Andrew understood Jacob's concerns, but he also saw the benefits of the Antari's help. He decided to visit Jacob and try to understand his perspective. As Andrew arrived at Jacob's office, he was met by a group of protesters. They were holding signs that read, "No to alien interference," and "Humans can solve their own problems." Jacob greeted Andrew and began to explain his views. "We can't just rely on aliens to fix our problems," he said. "We need to take responsibility for our own actions." Andrew listened to Jacob's arguments, and he began to see his point. Maybe the Antari's help was not the solution to all of humanity's problems. Maybe humans needed to find their own way. But as Andrew left Jacob's office, he couldn't shake off the feeling that the Antari's help was exactly what humanity needed. The world was changing, and it was changing for the better. As Andrew walked back to his office, he saw Victor and Sophia working with a team of scientists. They were developing new technologies that would help humanity to thrive. Andrew smiled, feeling a sense of hope. Maybe, just maybe, the Antari's gift was exactly what humanity needed to survive and thrive. As the days passed, the Antari continued to work with humanity to address the world's problems. However, not everyone was pleased with the progress being made. A small but vocal group of people, led by Jacob, began to organize a resistance movement. They saw the Antari as a threat to humanity's independence and freedom. "We can't just accept help from aliens without considering the consequences," Jacob said in a speech to his followers. "We need to be careful and make sure that we're not losing our autonomy." Andrew, who had been working closely with the Antari, understood Jacob's concerns but disagreed with his methods. "I think we're being short-sighted," Andrew said in a debate with Jacob. "The Antari are trying to help us. They're offering us solutions to problems that we've been struggling with for centuries." Jacob shook his head. "I don't trust them," he said. "I think they're hiding something from us." As the resistance movement grew, Andrew found himself facing opposition from people he had previously considered friends. One day, while walking through the city, Andrew was confronted by a group of protesters. They were holding signs that read, "No to alien interference," and "Humans can solve their own problems." Andrew tried to reason with them, but they refused to listen. The situation became heated, and Andrew was forced to leave for his own safety. As he walked away, he felt a sense of sadness. He had never imagined that the Antari's help would be met with such resistance. That evening, Andrew met with Victor and Sophia to discuss the growing resistance movement. "We had anticipated this," Victor said, "but we're willing to work with you to address your concerns." Andrew appreciated Victor's willingness to listen, but he knew that the situation was more complex than that. "I think we need to understand the root of the resistance," Andrew said. "We need to find out what's driving their fears and concerns." Sophia nodded in agreement. "I think that's a good idea," she said. "Let's work together to find a solution." As they discussed the situation, Andrew realized that the resistance movement was not just about the Antari. It was about humanity's own fears and doubts. He wondered if humanity was ready to accept help from outside, or if they would continue to struggle with their own problems. The next day, Andrew decided to meet with Jacob again, this time to try to understand his perspective. "Jacob, I understand that you're concerned about our independence," Andrew said, "but I think we're being short-sighted. The Antari can help us in ways that we can't even imagine." Jacob looked at him skeptically. "I'm not convinced," he said. "I think we need to be careful." Andrew nodded. "I understand, but I think we should at least consider the possibilities. Let's work together to find a solution that works for everyone." As Andrew left the meeting, he felt a sense of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could find a way to work together and create a better future for humanity. The resistance movement continued to grow, and Andrew found himself at the center of the controversy. He was torn between his loyalty to the Antari and his concern for humanity's future. One day, Andrew received a message from Jacob, asking him to meet at a neutral location. Andrew agreed, hoping to find a way to resolve their differences. As they met in a quiet cafe, Jacob expressed his concerns about the Antari's influence on humanity. "I think we're losing our way," Jacob said. "We're becoming too dependent on them. We need to find our own solutions." Andrew listened patiently, understanding Jacob's perspective. But just as they were about to part ways, a news report flashed on the TV screen. "A group of scientists, secretly funded by Jacob's resistance movement, has attempted to sabotage one of the Antari's projects," the anchor said. "The project, aimed at providing clean energy to a small town, was destroyed in the attack." Andrew's eyes widened in shock. He turned to Jacob, who looked taken aback. "This was not my idea," Jacob said, his voice defensive. "I don't know who was behind it." Andrew wasn't sure if Jacob was telling the truth, but he knew that the sabotage would have serious consequences. The Antari, who had been working tirelessly to help humanity, were devastated by the attack. Sophia, who had become a close friend to Andrew, was gravely injured in the attempt. As Andrew rushed to her side, he realized that the resistance movement had gone too far. He knew that he had to make a choice, to support the Antari or to join the resistance. In that moment, Andrew knew what he had to do. He would stand by the Antari, who had come to help humanity with no ulterior motives. The incident sparked a global outcry against the resistance movement. People began to see the Antari as saviors, not invaders. As the world began to heal, Andrew watched in awe. The Antari's technology and kindness had changed the course of human history, and Andrew, who had once been skeptical, had become one of the Antari's strongest allies. The future looked bright, and Andrew knew that humanity would never forget the kindness and generosity of the Antari. In the aftermath of the sabotage attempt, the Antari and humanity came together to rebuild and move forward. The incident had been a turning point, a moment of truth that had revealed the true nature of the resistance movement. As the world looked to the future, Andrew knew that there would be challenges ahead. But he also knew that with the Antari by their side, humanity could overcome anything. The Antari, led by Victor and Sophia, had changed the course of human history, and Andrew, along with the rest of humanity, would never forget their kindness and generosity. The world was a different place now, a place of hope and possibility, and Andrew was grateful to have been a part of it. The world had changed forever. The Antari, who had come to help humanity, had become an integral part of society. Andrew, who had once been skeptical, had become one of the Antari's strongest allies. He had worked tirelessly to help them integrate into human society. As he looked out at the city, Andrew saw a bright future unfolding. The air and water were clean, and the forests were thriving. The humans, too, had changed. They were healthier, happier, and more peaceful. Victor, the leader of the Antari, approached Andrew with a smile. "We have done it, my friend," Victor said. "We have created a new beginning for humanity." Andrew nodded, feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment. "But our work is not done," Andrew said. "We still have much to learn from each other." Victor nodded in agreement. "We will continue to work together, to learn from each other, and to grow." As they spoke, Sophia, who had been injured in the sabotage attempt, walked up to them. "I'm glad to see that the world is healing," Sophia said, her eyes shining with happiness. Andrew smiled, feeling a sense of gratitude towards the Antari. "Thank you for all that you have done," Andrew said. "You have given us a second chance." Sophia smiled, her eyes filled with compassion. "We are not just helping humanity," Sophia said. "We are becoming a part of it. We are becoming a family." As the three of them stood there, Andrew knew that a new beginning had indeed been born. A beginning of hope, of peace, and of cooperation between humans and the Antari. The future looked bright, and Andrew was excited to see what it held.